Good morning, folks. This is just a quick overview of quiz 1. I don't think there's anything in here that's going to be a big surprise, right? We'll go over the same sort of mechanics as we had for the practice quiz and for all the future quizzes. But I want to run through the topics, the question styles, and again, just give you a bit of an idea on what to expect. All right, so it pretty much covers everything up to a couple of days before the quiz itself is the way things are going to run. So this one, the quiz is available from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Nanaimo time on January 22nd. And so the material pretty much covers up to around the 20th. So again, that includes the videos, it includes the Zoom discussions that we have in the lectures and the labs. So it's pretty much everything for the course up to around that point. You've got 50 minutes to complete it. So again, you can start anytime up to, I guess, 6:10 p.m. And yeah, once you start, you have to finish it. It doesn't actually cut you off after 50 minutes, just in case people run into technical issues or something else that's going on. It does show me where you get to in that 50 minutes. So if for some reason you have to run over, fire me an email as to why, and we can work things out. The questions are randomly ordered. A lot of the questions have multiple different variations that are pretty much the same idea, just slightly different questions, slightly different versions of the same question or a very similar question. So everybody will get a slightly different version of each quiz. For this one, again, we're pretty much assuming that it's Common Lisp as we're studying in the labs and in the lectures, I guess. All right, so as far as the question styles go, they're often a mix of long and short answers. It does trend toward longer answers as we get deeper into the course, just because the material tends to get a little bit more complex. For this particular one, it's going to focus on the basic Lisp that we've been covering in the course so far. So making sure that you can read and understand Lisp code, that you can write basic Lisp code, and it's going to focus on the kinds of things we've gone through in those first couple of weeks. So Introductory Lisp, I guess the short version is everything kind of before recursion, and there might be a little bit on recursion, but if there is, I'll give you an algorithm for it. So it's basically just translating the algorithm I give you into Lisp code. Let's see, so covering things like input and output, right, formats and reads, that kind of thing. The basic data types, so integers and floats and strings and whatnot. The type checking, right, since we have to use that a lot in Lisp and since everything is dynamically typed, so you should be comfortable with the type checking functions and how to use them. Ifs and cons, right, so you can control basic selection. Defining and calling functions, right, so defun and all the fun and joy that goes along with that. Basic lists and list functions, so car and cutter and cons and append and all those kinds of things. So all of that is kind of fair game for this first lab, or for this first quiz. Obviously it's too early in the morning here. So the way it's going to work is there's 4 questions. The quiz is worth 50 marks, so kind of gauge how long to spend on a question by how many marks it's worth, right? If it's a 10-mark question, figure about 10 minutes. If it's a 20-mark question, figure about 20 minutes. For this quiz, they're all in the 10 to 14 mark range. Again, unlike the way I ran 265 last term, you can go back and forth in the questions. So, you know, if you want to skip through and find the questions you find easiest first and do those and then go back to the tougher ones, that's fine. Usual ideas for quiz rules, right? This has got to be your own work. Obviously, this is done online, so you've got access to the course material and whatnot, but you can't get help from other people during the quiz. So if you do use resources other than the basic course material that I provide, please do provide citation for it. So, you know, if you're grabbing a web resource, give me the URL. If you're getting material from a book or something like that, make sure you give the author, title, date, that kind of thing. You can't communicate with anybody else. So again, no messaging, no emailing, no video or audio. Don't work in the same room as somebody else in the course, or who's taken the course. Or taken an equivalent course. Let's see. Again, no sharing files during this, no sharing documents, no sharing screens. Again, no form of communication. Obviously, there are way more ways to communicate than we've got listed here, but that's the idea. No communication with anybody else to share information about the quiz or to get help on the quiz. All right, I think that should be pretty self-evident. And again, the usual collection of links if you're running into issues with your account or with VIU Learn or with anything along those lines. I suspect by now you've all had a fair bit of practice with VIU Learn and quizzes, so I don't anticipate that being a big problem. But if you run into anything, there are links there. And of course, I will try and be online as much as possible on Discord and checking email as the day goes on. So if you run into problems, feel free to get a hold of me too. All right, I think that was everything for this one.